Craig Stivender has many years of experience in law enforcement, particularly in Colleton County. Now, he wants to be the next sheriff of Colleton County. I sit down exclusively with Craig for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and download my free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Craig Stivender, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Nice to meet you.
I appreciate it greatly.
Very much.
Yes, sir.
So thank you for letting me come out and talk to you today.
Anytime, because obviously you actually are a candidate for Colleton County Sheriff. And I know just a second ago you told me, hey, it's been 9 months since I began my campaign. What is the biggest difference between when you announced your candidacy for sheriff to right now?
So when I announced my candidacy, I was actually employed with the Baltimore Police Department as the captain over the department. After my announcement, I was asked to move over to the fire department because I have a whole dual certification. The city felt like it was a conflict of interest, so I have been employed with the fire department now, going on about 9 months. And it's a different environment. I'm still out there helping the citizens and being able to do a job to serve and protect, but it's just different than what I was used to as a police officer.
And I was going to ask you, what is the state of public safety right now in Colleton County?
Colleton County is in a bad place right now, considering the recent news with our sheriff. A lot of things have changed. We have a bad drug problem, obviously. We've had a gang problem in the past. There's a lot of stealing, everything else that goes along with drugs. When you have a drug problem, everything else spirals downward, and we've kind of fallen back into that. We had kind of got it together for a little while, but then we kind of fell off again, and that's kind of where we're at the moment. We have a new sheriff that's standing in, and he's doing a fine job, Sheriff Quintin.
Oh, yeah.
He has tried to reorganize and restructure the sheriff's department since he's taken it over a few months ago. And it looks positive, but obviously he's just been placed in that position to kind of stabilize until we get a new sheriff.
You talk about that restructuring. If you were to be elected sheriff, how would you restructure the sheriff's office?
To start with, I'm coming in with a fresh new command staff. I've got a chief deputy picked out. He and I have spoke several times. I've asked him to pray about it, think about it, talk with his family. He is just gotten back with me and confirmed that he will be my chief deputy if I win the election. And I also plan on coming in with 2 new captains that have not currently been with the sheriff's department to restructure the sheriff's department. Obviously, our sheriff is over the jail as well.
Right.
I'm not exactly sure who I will put at that captain's position. The new sheriff, Sheriff Quintin, just did away with the major's position, which was something that I planned on doing from the start. I think we had too much brass up top and not enough people on the road and at the bottom. So that was something that I would have done anyway. So they're working to kind of restructure a little bit, but there will definitely be some changes at the top.
And I know earlier you basically says, hey, Colleton County has a huge drug problem. And I know that when you were talking to a reporter with the Collegeville, South Carolina on their Facebook page, you basically said, hey, I will start a full-time narcotics union.
Exactly. First thing that I want to do once I get in there is restart a narcotics unit. I'd also like to work on a metro unit with Edisto Beach, Collegeville Police Department, and Walterboro Police Department, where we have officers from each agency come in and get together and work. Because the problem is, in the past, we've worked separately. Up until maybe 6 years ago, we all did our own thing, and we got the same drug dealers. So we're not communicating over county line or over city lines or whatever, but it's the same drug dealers, and they're all communicating very well amongst themselves. So we have to work together. If we have the same people having the same problems, then it would make sense for us to work together in order to have a metro unit, narcotics unit. We haven't had a full-time narcotics unit in the county in over 3 years. I was on the last full-time narcotics unit that we had. And they disbanded that under the last sheriff. And just, you can gradually see the number of drug houses and the drug problems start to creep back in. And when that starts, then your theft and your every other crime in the county, basically your shootings, your gang activity, everything else starts to come back once your drug problems do.
Why isn't there a war on drugs in Colleton County?
I'm not really sure why. Like I said, 3 years ago, there was 4 of us that were working narcotics full-time, 2 from the city, 2 from the county. For whatever reasons, the powers that be decided to put us in other positions. My unit, my 2 guys, we were put back in investigations. The ones from the Sheriff's Department, it was kind of the same situation. I don't know that I don't think that the people that were in the administration understood what narcotics was, because none of them had actually worked full-time narcotics or undercover narcotics investigations. So they really don't understand the nature of the business, and if you don't understand it, a lot of times it may look like there's a lot of sitting around. And they wanted us to work day shift hours a lot of the times. Well, drug dealers don't work 8 to 5, and they don't work Monday through Friday. And, you know, when you have us in the office 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, there is a lot of sitting around. You're waiting on these people to make moves and try to do things. They work on their own time schedule. Drug dealers and drug users don't work off a watch. If they tell you they're going to be somewhere, it could be hours before it happens. So I don't think that the command staff really understood, and I think that's why they reallocated the officers to different areas.
I know this might be a redundant question, but what is the nature of this drug business?
So, you know, essentially, drugs, like I said, I think drugs fuel every other crime that we have, and there's so many people that are becoming addicted to these drugs, whether they start using marijuana and gradually move on to other harder drugs, or whether they're getting addicted from prescription medication, which seems to be a huge problem in our county. You know, that's something I want to work with the doctors, because I feel like a lot of these people, they just doctor hop, and the doctors know that, but they also are held to a certain standard. They can't just tell everybody no. But if we could kind of work together to let them know when we catch these people selling their prescription medication or whatever, that, hey, these people are abusing the system, then we could get them cut off. And that would also help our county, I think, tremendously. But drugs is just an epidemic. It's across the country. It's not just Colleton County. It's everywhere. And I feel like, you know, as long as I'm the sheriff, I will stay vigilant every year that I'm in there to make sure that that drug problem stays out of our county. If they're going to have to use drugs in Colleton County, they're going to have to go somewhere else to buy it, whether it be Charleston, Berkeley, Beaufort, Jasper, wherever else. They're going to have to go out of our county to buy it, because I'm going to shut it down at the head. I'm going to go after the drug dealers. I'm going to go after the people that are selling narcotics on our streets to our kids, to our adults, whomever, to try to stop that.
I hate to be political, but where is the money to stop this, to really get the war on drugs on board here?
So there are a lot of federal funding and stuff like that we can get if we have a good grant writer, which is somebody that I really want to seek out. You know, obviously, City of Walterboro, my sister wrote a lot of grants for them. She works for the City of Walterboro, and she did a good job at that. But I'll find somebody that can write grants. I've got a couple people in mind right now, and they can write grants to get us funding in. There's a lot of federal funding. Also, there's money that goes up and down the interstate every single day, and we don't have a interstate team right now working interstate. I plan on putting together a traffic/interstate team so that we can have try to get some of that money and drugs off the interstate. Obviously, we're not going to work one side of the interstate just for money and ignore the opposite side, the drugs coming up and down, because I just as soon get the drugs off the street as the money. However, there's money that comes up and down, so if you can do both, you can accomplish, because if you can get money, you can do bigger things and hire more people. You also have to have a working relationship with the county council, which is something that I don't feel like our prior administration did. You have to go to the council meetings, you have to work on figuring out what you can do, and you have to be willing to work with them, to speak to them, and ask for things. I feel like our fire rescue, for instance, in the county, they have a lot of nice equipment and a lot of nice things. I feel like the fire chief, McCroy, does a fine job working with the county council in order to get the things that he needs to better his department. And I feel like the sheriff's department could do the same thing if they work on that relationship.
When you were obviously removed from one position to the next, how much did drug use go up in Colleton County, in your mind?
I feel like it's been a gradual. It's not like overnight it started back. I think we were hitting doors once a month, maybe sometimes more than that, just depending on, a full narcotics investigation takes months. It's not something that you just go and say, okay, there's a drug house, let's go shut it down, and 2 weeks later you're kicking the door. And it doesn't work that way. It takes months to years to make a proper case where you can actually get somebody prosecuted and go to prison for a extended amount of time. So I think that what's happened is, we were making good cases and we were locking up a lot of drug dealers and things like that. And then once they shut it down, it's been a gradual escalation back to where we were probably 6 or 8 years ago.
Wow. And where are you right now as far as the discussion about body cameras?
When I get into the sheriff's department, I want all of my officers with body cameras. They don't currently have every officer wearing body cameras at the Colleton County Sheriff's Office. I know a lot of the investigators where there's sometimes a lot of them don't have them. I've seen that with my own 2 eyes. And the city of Walterboro, that's one thing that Chief Marvin had all of his units, to include his command staff. I was the number 3 at the department. I wore a body camera. Now, that's not to say that you're always going to have that body camera on. There's always, they don't make a body camera right now, to my knowledge, that lasts an entire shift of just recording everything. So, just because you're wearing that body camera doesn't necessarily mean that you won't miss some sort of action. But if you get used to wearing it every single day, you're more apt to use it properly. So I plan on having all of my officers with body cameras. I think they're a great tool to be able to prove in court what did or did not happen. And if you're doing things the right way, you should have nothing to hide.
Right. That's exactly right. And I want to go back to that interview with the Cartersville reporter, because you basically says, hey, if I get in office, I plan to run the sheriff's office with integrity. How do you describe integrity inside the Colleton County Sheriff's Office now?
I think obviously with the recent indictment, there's been some major integrity issues. When I decided to run probably 2 years ago, I was seeing integrity issues that I had to go to my administration about, because to be honest with you, I'm not going to prison for somebody else's mishaps. I go out and do the job, and I do the job right. And it's just kind of like a light switch. You have to be able to cut it on and cut it off. And if you're not willing to do that, then you don't need to be in law enforcement. And I feel like I saw a lot of integrity issues that needed to be corrected. And obviously the FBI and SLED apparently found out about them, and they saw them, and they started. I heard it said recently that they did a 2-year investigation and there was only one person indicted, and that was the sheriff. That is correct. However, that indictment said that there were numerous officers that worked on duty while doing things for the sheriff's personal property. When we go through the academy, we are trained that it doesn't matter who tells you to do something wrong, you don't do it. It doesn't matter if the sheriff is your boss. If he fires you, then it's your responsibility to report that to the powers that be, SLED or whomever. But you should never do something illegal just because somebody else tells you to do it. So there are still employees that are currently there, even in their command staff, that were involved in the corruption. And those are people that I will eventually weed out. They'll stand out. Once I get in there and I have a command staff that stands for honesty and integrity and does the right thing from the top, it's going to be hard for people that doesn't have honesty, integrity, and morals to fit in our department.
I had a conversation just yesterday with an Uber driver who used to be in law enforcement, and I talked to him about the current situations going on here in Charleston County with the race for sheriff's office, and I basically asked him, why does politics creep into law enforcement?
Well, it's money, Quintin. Honestly, politics is fueled by money, and it's a corrupt game, unfortunately, and it shouldn't be that way. But you know, we've had anytime you run for a position of office, you have to raise money to have finances to be able to run a campaign. And unfortunately, you know, there are a lot of money and power people that like to get that same old people in office because they look for somebody to get them out of trouble when they want to. My campaign, I can say honestly that most of the people that I've raised money from have been little old church ladies and people that I've known all my life that essentially are good, honest Christian people that are trying to better their community. I have started a grassroots campaign from the bottom and just tried to collect my money $25, $35, $100 at a time. You know, I have had a couple $1,000 donations, but they have also been from people who have been out of state that don't have anything to do with our county. They're just people that know the type of person I am and know that I can help clean up our county.
And you talk about obviously life and people you grew up with in church. I didn't know this until I did my research yesterday as well, but you are a deacon at your church.
Yes, sir. I've been a deacon at Cottage Grove Baptist Church for close to 15, maybe 18 years. I teach the adult Sunday school class at my church, and I have taught the children's Sunday school classes and stuff in the past, but I was raised in Cottage Grove Baptist Church, accepted the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ at approximately the age of 12, and you know, I'm no perfect person. I did some things in my life I should not have done, and you know, we've kind of announced all that at the beginning of our campaign. I wanted to be transparent with people. I want people to know that I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. I've done stuff I shouldn't have done. However, who hadn't? If people dug through everything you had done in your past, they're going to find something wrong. But I try to live my life the way the Bible tells me to live it. And is that perfect? No, it's not perfect. But I strive every day to do that, to live the example that Jesus gave me.
That's exactly right. Well, thank you so much for your time, and welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
I enjoyed it so much. Thank you for having me,
yes,
and
sir.
I hope to talk to you again.
I'll be right here. Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.